Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection. Simon Bray, Steven Reid in the house alongside myself, Mr. Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody, here on this Saturday. We are actually recording this on a Saturday. I don't think we've ever done this before,
Nope.
but situation going on with me necessitated we had to move our taping date. So it is very early in the morning my time. So I will not be participating in our normal kick off the show segment, but these two fine gentlemen will because it's technically beer o'clock where they are. So Simon, what are you drinking?
Well, because I am going out tonight, I am partaking, but not partaking, as it were, because I have got Britain's favourite drink, apparently, the one that everyone's drinking, especially if you're Gen Z, which I'm not. Ugh. Yeah, I've got some alcohol-free Guinness. Yeah,
Wow.
yes, yes, which I've already poured, and it's looking beautiful and sexy like that. Yeah, so I've got it. I feel like I like it. This must be the fourth one I've had, so I must like it. And here we go. Let's have a try. Just what you want on a freezing cold afternoon is a really cold drink. So if I get up halfway through, gone for a week.
There you go.
Oh dear, I don't drink a lot of alcohol-free stuff, but that is definitely one of the better ones, I think.
Oh, you've had it? Yeah.
I've had it, yeah. That is it's pretty decent. Yes.
I can't even remember the last time I had an alcohol-free beer. It's been, and I think I've only maybe ever had one in my life because I've always been like, why would I buy that? Granted, Guinness is very light as it is. I mean, it's like what, 4.1% or something like that. But I bet just does it have all the same qualities as a regular Guinness, Simon? Everything.
Yeah, there's a slightly weird aftertaste
Hmm.
at the back of the mouth, slightly weird, like most non-alcoholic beers do. Oh,
Yeah.
what an oxymoron that really is. But let's,
Isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, I believe we're trying to make this a bit quicker today, aren't we? So come on, let's
Are
do it.
we?
Okay. It's the sort of thing I would never buy myself an alcohol-free beer for those reasons, Pete. But people, when you're at things like driving here, because there's zero tolerance in Scotland, do tend to say, "He likes beer, have one of those," and you think, "Yeah, okay," but they're
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
This was a gift, so never look a
Maybe.
gift horse in the mouth, as they say.
Exactly.
Well, I have no life, so I am not going out later today, which will shock no one that knows me. So I'm drinking, yes, even though it's early. It is early for me, it has to be said. But I need to say a big thank you because I had beer envy quite a while ago now. Simon caused me to have beer envy. Okay. Well, he did. He showed me something. He was like, basically went, "Nyeh, nyeh, nyeh," and that's because he showed me this. Okay. And thank you very much to Lorraine and Paul Robertson, who are loyal viewers, who were kind enough to get in touch through Pete to say they knew how I could get it, and they were right. So I do have it. I love this. Yeah, as a Kiss fan, I mean, I like shiny things. It's shiny.
And that's pretty shiny. Yep.
It is. It's cool. I like it a lot. So inside of that was this. Okay, so there's Kiss Destroyer Craft Lager. Don't quite know something that comes in a metal tin from a company online can be a craft lager, but you know what I mean. So there you are. It's 4%, so it's quite acceptable for the time of day that we're going here. It did also, of course, come in this fabulous thing. Here we go. I would turn it to show you the logo properly, but maybe not quite yet. So it looks quite nice in the glass. And as often with some of these things, that's better than I anticipated. When you get these kind of more kind of logoed sort of things, you always think, yeah, it's all but that bit's going to be cool. The packaging is going to be really cool. What's here is going to be, that's not bad actually. As I said a couple of weeks ago, as a non-lager drinker, I don't mind that at all actually. Thank you very much.
It looks good. I love the glass. Glass is great.
Glass is great. Yeah, I'll get a lot of mileage out of the glass as well. So there we go.
Yeah.
So do I have to stop sending you really smug pictures every time I see it out in the wild now? You find other things to do that with, so
I,
I
I
don't
do.
I don't think it's a massive loss really. It's just one string from my ball that's disappeared, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I'm disappointed.
Well, cheers, gentlemen. My H2O and my New York Mets glass. That's what I got today. Ugh. So, Today's topic, very interesting topic, and much, much more difficult than I anticipated. So we were talking about this whole concept of albums we love, maybe they're classic albums too, where side two is the place to be. And that's not the norm. Most albums are front loaded. The more I went through and started looking at back here, I was like, wow, in almost every instance, I would easily say side one is the stronger of the two and the one that I usually go towards. But all of a sudden, you start finding some of these albums where, you know what? I think side two's got it beat, right? But there wasn't a lot of them. There wasn't a lot. I found this really, really difficult, but ultimately, I wound up finding we're going to do three each and maybe some honorable mentions. But I found for me, like three albums, three really, really classic albums where probably side one is great, but side two is that much better. I don't know if you guys had the same thing. It was very rare that like side one just was not good at all and side two was amazing. They both were really strong, but for me there were a couple of tracks on side two that kind of tipped the scales a little bit. That's what I found.
We had that discussion. We haven't discussed what we've chosen, but we did. Simon kind of mentioned, have you chosen albums where side one's crap? And I was like, well, no, because invariably if side one's crap, it's all crap. You tend to
Right.
find
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
often than not. So yeah, we've definitely gone down the route of, well, I like this album, but side two is the one that just speaks to me more. I ended up with a short list of seven, and really that was trying to look for things. I'm happy with the three, and I've got a couple honorable mentions that are worth a go. But yeah, this was. I had a little word with myself because I've got a habit these days if somebody suggests a show as we're recording, and I go, I can do that, and then we come away from it and going, can I do that?
Yeah, I know, right?
This was almost another one of those.
Yeah. It was definitely hard because everything I was looking at was like, nope, side one, nope, side one,
Yep.
side one. And I was just like, am I going to find any? And then all of a sudden I looked in a couple of places where I was totally convinced that it would have been side one. And I'm like, no, you know what?
Yeah.
Side two is where it's at on this particular one. And I was surprised myself. So I'm curious to see what you guys have come up with. So, all right, Simon, well, why don't you kick us off here?
Are we doing the actual albums or the honorable mentions first or last? How are we doing this?
Set the tone, Simon. You just take the reins, run with
I'm
it.
going to do the honorable mentions first and then go for it. Okay, so I did promise at one point when we were doing the Halloween favorite least favorites, the one that everybody watched. I did promise that Halloween would make a reappearance in 2025, and I really, really like the second half of the Oath of Time. Yeah, can you see that? It's really bright here, isn't it? I really like the second half. That was going to be one of my choices before we got rid. Just was. It really was. Really. Also, I really like the second half of Isolation by Toto, even though um, Stranger in Town is on the first half. Yay! That's arguably my favorite Toto song. I really like the second half. You folded your arms, Peter. Why?
Because that's my favorite Toto album, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, could I choose between the two? Because side one is really good.
It is.
Yeah. Hmm.
It is. And
Mm.
I still always listen to albums from start to finish.
As
Yeah.
do
You
we
know,
all. Yeah. Yeah.
all of these people that make playlists and stuff like that and miss songs off. What's all that about? So yeah, then I thought to myself earlier this week when we were thinking about the timings and stuff. I thought, in the cop show that even fewer people watch, some people were wondering why we were doing that, which to me says that some people don't watch every week.
No.
And I thought, it's about time where I really Simoned myself up again and let the people know about who is your Uncle Simon. So I've chosen three of my favorite bands. You can probably sit the first one out of the pair of you. Three of my favorite bands, where I think one of their classic albums, side two, is marginally better because I think they're all great albums. Okay, so and I know about my love of the Stranglers, don't you? I might have mentioned that about 4 years ago. Excellent, good, good, good. For new people, they are unbelievably awesome and wonderful and fantastic, and I love them. This is the Raven. Good, isn't that a great cover? Isn't that just a great,
Mm, isn't it? Yeah.
great cover? There is a lenticular version as well. Ooh, where the Raven really scares you shitless. But Thing about the Stranglers is, it still is because they're still going. For a band that had a lot of hits here in the UK, a lot of mainstream success, their stuff is actually really, in many ways, quite uncommercial and fairly. What the heck?
Mhm.
Really? So side one's great. I love an album that starts off with an instrumental. Big fan of that. Always have been. Finishes on Nuclear Device, which is my favourite song by the band, arguably. Then on side two, this is where the gold really is, and where it all goes a little bit. What? You're supposed to be a commercial act. Okay, so the first song is Sha Sha or Go Go, which is about the Shah of Iran, and I don't think there's enough songs in popular music about the Shah of Iran. Just should be more. And it mentions cassettes and stuff like that, and the Ayatollah Khomeini, and wait, there you go. And the second one's um, like a piano murder ballad kind of thing called "Don't Bring Harry." Mm. When I got this album when I was about 12, I wasn't aware who or what Harry really was. I just thought he wasn't a great guy. I know. What have I grown up since then? Then it's got Duchess, which I think is one of the great singles of all time. Managed the towering heights of number 14 here in the UK. But if you've ever been to a Stranglers gig, and I've been to 26, when the opening chords of this song goes on, the crowd goes utterly mental. It really does. It's one of those moments you go, oh, yeah, yeah, it's Duchess, yeah. Just one of the great pop tunes. And the video got banned by the BBC, so that's always a good thing. What do you think? A bit of blasphemy. That's what it was banned for. It's just because it was filmed in a church. That's not blasphemous, kids. It really isn't. And then things go really, really weird on the last two songs on the album, which is Men in Black, which is basically about cannibalism and stuff like that, and the vocals really slow down and it's really, really weird. You got to listen to it to understand what it is. And then the final song is called Genetics, where the keyboard player gets to sing it. Yay! Always a good idea. It really is. It's just a great record, and it makes me think that how did you get away with that success? And then you realize the next album was the Gospel According to the Men in Black, which is absolutely progtastic. Even you two would like it. It really is weird on a scale of weirdness, isn't it, Doggy? Yes, it is. So my first choice, side two of The Raven by the Stranglers. Yes. If I get up in a second, both dogs want to go out.
Okay. By the way, Simon, I don't know if you saw, but John Parr made an appearance on the channel this week.
I did not. I've had a hectic week. You're gonna have to guide me towards that. Was it a radio hits one? I hope they enjoyed it. Otherwise, they're going to have words with their Uncle Simon.
He came out of the cupboard for a little bit to join me on that show. Probably you didn't know I snuck him out of there. So
Oh, well, I've been at work and I've had lots to do this week. I'm going to have words. I'm going to get a new padlock.
okay.
Just saying. Can let the dogs out.
Well, when we came to do this,
Go on.
and it came up in whatever show it was that it came up in,
Oh,
I
open the door.
immediately
The
thought,
dogs
yeah,
haven't gone out.
okay, I can do this. And this was the album that made me think that. Because I thought, as soon as, if we only need three or five or whatever we chose to start with, and one immediately pops in your head, you go, this is going to be easy. It really wasn't after this. But it did also make me think, and it probably stands for nearly all of my choices. I haven't done the honorable mentions either, but let's not worry about that. That there is a classic on side one. So the title track's on side one, and whether you love that song or not, it's perceived as one of the band's best. And yet, while I like things like Exciter, or as Paul Stanley would sing it, Exciter, I don't know why he's not got a lisp or a speech impediment, but it is definitely Exciter, just like it's Mean Street, if you ever listen to Y&T, but there you go. But side two was the one that I just listened to over and over and over. All Hell's Breaking Loose, it's just one of the band's best songs, as is A Million to One, and I love the early Unmasked era. Fits like a glove. That's a sleeper in the catalogue for me. They played it live on the tour for this album, and then it didn't really do much after that. It's just one of those songs I think, why is that not a thing? It's just such a great song. Then you've got Dance All Over Your Face, which is, I mean, the title's terrible. It's such a bad song title, and it's not the best song on the album, it has to be said. It's the one that lets side two kind of go just a little bit. But the standard across the rest of it is great because it closes with "And on the Eighth Day," which is just ludicrous and overblown and nonsense. And if any band can be ludicrous, overblown, and nonsense, well, it's kind of here, isn't it? Do you know? I mean, how many of these people are wearing wigs on the front quite brazenly and pink waistcoats and it's probably standing on boxes and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
That's this band. So if it's going to be overblown and silly, well, it's side two of Lick It Up. And I love this album, always have done. It's either my favourite or second favourite Kiss album, depending on what day of the week it is. And even with that, side two is where it's at for me. I've always loved side two of this album. So that's my first choice, is Lick It Up by Kiss.
Kiss was one of the bands that I went to first to start looking through the catalog to see if they could be one of my choices. And in almost every instance, I like side one better on almost all of them.
The other one that popped into my head when I came to do this, and we might have made a list if we were looking for a long list, was Dress to Kill. Dress to Kill is close.
Yeah, I considered that.
Yeah, that's the other one I kind of thought. Yes, Simon.
I would strongly suggest that Kiss are the absolute epitome of front-loaded bands.
That's my point. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, the majority undoubtedly are. Yeah, yeah. They know
even like the first album, there's a couple of crankers on side two, but side one is just you just can't top it, right?
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, same again, they're that kind of band, aren't they? It's all like, wow, there's not much subtlety going on.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to follow Simon's lead. I'm going to do my honorable mentions quick first. So my first pick for the honorables is Grand Funk Railroad, Grand Funk. So you would think because side one's got 5 songs and side two's got 3 songs. But side two's got Paranoid and Inside Looking Out, which are 2 of my favorite Grand Funk Railroad songs of all time. So even though we got This Thing on the Move and In Need on side one, not quite. So yeah, side 2 for Grand Funk. And then I'm going to go with Yes, Fragile. I think that side 2, this is an interesting album because you got like all these little solo pieces and things on here, but side 2 has Long Distance Runaround. It has The Fish. Has Mood for a Day and Heart of the Sunrise. So even though you got Outside of the Sky and Roundabout over on side 1, you still got Cons and Brahms and We Have Heaven, which are fun. But if you take away all the little solo things and you look at both sides, I think side 2 is really where it's at on Fragile. All right, so now for my pick number 1 or number 3, whatever. I'm going to go with Led Zeppelin 2. So this was a tough one because side 1's got one of their great songs of all time, right? Whole Lot of Love, which I don't think anybody would deny, maybe except Simon, that is, one of the all-time great songs. But, What Is and What Should Never Be, the Lemon Song, Thank You, really good songs, classic Zeppelin songs. But side two's got Heartbreaker. It's got Livin' Lovin' Maid. It's got Ramble On. It's got the drum solo Moby Dick. And it's got one of my favorite Zeppelin tunes of all time, Bring It On Home, which I think is one of their underrated classics of just, hard rock, heavy blues rock. And no matter how great Whole Lot of Love is, it can't tip the scales on this one. So side 2 of Led Zeppelin 2 is the winner for me for my first choice. Back to Simon.
Okay, let's move along, shall we? Okay, right. My second choice and one of my very favorite bands, like all they are. There you go. It's the White Album. That's not true. This is from the Queen box set that came out in the early 1990s. One of the first thing that Mrs. Simon ever bought me, and what is rapidly becoming my favorite Queen album. It's a bit cool, isn't it? Queen 2.
Yeah, great album.
Great album.
So, I mean, the first part is great. It really is. But the second half is utterly brilliant. It's just, every time we mention Queen, either on the channel or in the program, somebody goes, "Well, Queen ain't even that band." And you listen to side 2, hello.
Someone wants a spotlight today.
Just stood on one of my favorite albums. And you listen, and people will say, "Oh, Queen went to rock band." You listen to that, and it's like a heavy thing that's really quite heavy, isn't it? Ogre Battle, the Fairy Mellows, Master Stroke. The second half is it's Freddie-tastic. You know, the songs were written by almost all by Freddie, and it's just I'm just got Harry's come here. It's just such. Oh God, he's got muddy paws as well. It's big boy. Yeah, it's just so showing you where the band are going to go. You know, with the production wise, yeah, and just so phenomenally heavy. Really, we're trying to be sensible. You know, Simon never gives any analysis. Well, this is why it's your
The
fault.
70-pound lapdog right there. Look at that.
No, no, it's very rare that he sits on me. Actually, can I get back to Queen? You know, so and anything that ends up with the seven seas of Rye, which to me is just the epitome of awesomeness. Is a really good thing. Um, yeah. Well, the good thing you can always think, I need some Queen, but do you know what? I don't want You Are My Best Friend. I don't want Bohemian Rhapsody anymore. Again, let's go to Queen 2. That for me is where, at the moment, this point in my life, is where the real Queen shit is, and particularly on side 2. But you know, put it down at the very very start and listen it all the way through, and you will be so enamored by this record because it's great. Side 2's really wonderful, isn't it, dog? Yes. Yeah, there you go. That's my second one.
Queen 2 is, I tend to agree with you. I find that when I want to listen to Queen nowadays, I go with the albums that aren't like overplayed, like Queen 2, Jazz, you know, great songs on those albums. Tends to
Interesting that you say
self-push.
Queen, who kind of proves when people say, "Oh, they're not a heavy band; they're a heavy band." People say they're not a progressive band. Well, that album kind of, tips that out the scale as well because it's a progressive album too.
Yeah.
It's the album where it kind of proves that they were everything and anything, and from there, the whole catalogue varies after that. It
Oh,
sets the
yeah.
tone. Great album, absolutely. Okay, my second choice is a bit of a cheat. Okay,
You cheating? No.
well, if anything, I'm doubling down on the concept. Is what I'm doing because there's four sides here, and side two's still the best. Okay, there are classics all the way through this. This is a great album. This is my favourite Led Zeppelin album. Okay, this is obviously Physical Graffiti for anyone that doesn't know. You do know. I know you know. I mean, there's stuff on here like The Rover, In My Time of Dying, 10 Years Gone. Right across this album, you go, oh, great song, great song, great song. But then you've got Kashmir on side two, and you think, well, there's not much better than that in general in life, really, is there? So that's a good start. Then you've got Trampled Underfoot. And then you've got one of my favourite things. You've got a title track that's not on the correct album. You've got Houses of the Holy. I
Yeah.
love that as a concept. I don't really know why, because it makes no sense, but it's just one of those quirks that I always go, so how did that happen then? And it just ticks a box for me. But it's not just that quirk that I really like. I do like this album, start to finish. It's really good. But side two is just where you kind of realise that we're going from a really great Led Zeppelin experience into something that for me, they would never kind of top ever again. This was the album that just sums up everything that they are. They gave themselves the room and the time and the space to not really worry about what it was and just get on with being themselves. And side two is the epitome of that. It's got everything there you want. It's got riffs, it's got great vocals, it's got grandiosity, it's got strings. It's got absolutely everything. And this probably should have been the album that first came into my head when this concept came up, when we came up with this idea, because it's the one that really epitomizes it for me. There are four sides here, and side two is the winner. And it's the winner every time for me. Love this album, love side two.
My favorite Zeppelin album. It's could be my favorite double album of all time. I still think I would lean towards side one.
No.
For me, yeah. I mean, side one is just, but I agree with you. Side two is spectacular.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
it's a great album. I'm not going to argue
it
too
is.
hard, but side two is good as that for me.
I mean, I hear people all the time saying, Physical Graffiti is good, but there's too much filler on it. I don't hear any filler on that album.
No, I don't
I
get any
think
filler on that.
everything that Zeppelin was all about is on that record. There's everything that they do so well is there.
Yeah.
There's lots
That's
of
the point for
variety.
me. Is it pulls from everything that come before. I mean, there's not a huge amount that comes after, but it sets a tone for where they could go. As I said, that it's to me the chains are off we'll just make an album that we want to make and get on with it. And I'm not suggesting they didn't always do that, but this is the one where they are trying this, they are trying that, they're going different places. The arrangements across that album are fantastic.
Yeah, they are.
Just
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, really good. But side two's where it's at for me.
Cool. All right. My next choice might surprise some people because side one generally is what most people talk about because it has a couple of drop dead classics from this band, but I would argue that side two also has, for me anyway, drop dead classics. The album is Stay in Class by Judas Priest. So, of course, side one's got Exciter, classic song. White Heat, Red Hot, really good song. Better by You, Better Than Me, one of the great covers of all time from Spooky Tooth, right? Title track Stay in Class, legendary. And Invader. So right there, this was one of those albums where it's like, well, side one is great, but side two, Saints in Hell, one of the great heavy metal riffs of all time, love it. Savage, so underrated, one of their great, more obscure, deep tracks. It's got Beyond the Realms of Death, one of their great kind of almost like ballads, you could say, with two absolutely amazing guitar solos. It's heavy, it's light, it's atmospheric, it's moody. And then probably like one of my favorite songs on the album that nobody ever talks about is Hero's End, all the way at the end. So good, great riffing on it. So this is one of those ones I'm like, it was almost like giving it like a numerical scale. It's like so it's like, and to see exactly which side kind of tips the scale a bit. And I'm gonna go with side two. It's generally the one that really does it for me on this album. I love the whole album. It's my favorite Priest album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. But I think side two is the one I would lean to if I could only have one side. Right? That's kind of how I think. If I could only have one side, those four songs. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can differentiate between the two there. That's really
It's
close.
so close,
That's
right? It's
really
so
close. Yeah,
close. Yeah.
really close.
Yeah.
That's because I looked at Priest. Painkiller was the one I kind of thought, well, maybe.
Yeah, I looked at that as well. Yeah.
So they're really consistent actually across most of their
Yeah.
albums. The really good albums tend to be really good from start to finish, with the highs and lows that every album has got. But I couldn't find one that I was happy with saying side two here. But yeah, that's a great choice.
All right, Simon, your final choice.
Okay. The hound is eating stuff from over there. Brilliant. Fantastic. What a good boy. Right. So my final choice is we all know my favorite band, don't we? We all know it. We all know that I am confused because I actually come from the north of Lancashire. Remember, my favorite band comes from the southern parts of America. But I'm going to go with Second Helping by Skinner. The second side of Second Helping is the better side. It's all great to a point, but the second side is just fantastic, utterly fantastic. I listened to it the other day for the first time in a while, and there's just so much going on in the arrangements. It's just so good. Everything is in exactly the right place, just where it needs to be. Yeah, it really is. Side one starts with Sweet Home Alabama, and which some people can't listen to anymore. I could listen to it all day, every day for the rest of my life. I really could. Then again, I don't listen to radio, so there you go. Such is life. I Need You is great. Don't Ask Me No Questions is great. Working for MCA really winds me up.
Yeah, one of their best.
Oh no, really winds me up. Just saying,
That's not a compliment here, Pete.
I'll be honest. I'm going to see them in the summer. I'm 100% they will play working for MCA, even though they haven't done for about 4 decades. That really annoys me. It's also just not my favorite Skinner song. But everything on side two, I utterly adore. Ballad of Curtis Lowe. When I saw them in 1991, and they played that, before you knew what bands were going to play before they turned up. It was like an absolute hallelujah moment in my life. I thought I can die young. Now I could die old if they did it next time I see them, which they won't because they only play the same 14 songs every time.
That's true.
Folk music is fantastic. Deep cut, we like the deep cuts. Needle on a Spoon. Yeah. I gave up drugs because I listened to that song. That's not true. And finally, the cover of "Call Me the Breeze" is just so brilliant. And do you know what? This is the album it's the Billy Powell album. That's what it is. Throughout this
Yeah, yeah.
fills and his runs are just absolutely perfect all the way through. It it's a brilliant, brilliant album, and side two just about tips it for me.
I would agree with you on that. And probably because for me, Sweet Home Alabama, I just never need to hear again. And I think I like working for MCA, but I think yeah, side two has got some great deep cuts, and Needle of the Spoon is great. So yeah, it's a great choice. I would agree with you.
So as soon as I've gone out of sequence, I'll do my honorable mentions now. Okay, so this definitely, I mean, obviously, there's an era where vinyl doesn't really exist. And whilst you can, as Simon did with Halloween, you can get front loaded, back loaded. It's the same concept. But this really took me back to my kind of early days of listening to bands on records because well, that's what you did when there was only records or cassettes. There was still side one and side two, and 99 times out of 100, that was the same thing on a record and a cassette. Not always because of run times and all that sort of stuff, but pretty much always. So they all tend to be older albums by classic bands. So I started with Quo. Quo was really where I got into music in many ways. And side two, I mean, it opens with Caroline. This is Hello, by the way. Um, and that's the set opener for not all, but a ginormous amount of Quo shows. So for side two to have the standard set opener, that in itself kind of says that's wrong. Surely that should open the record. I mean, Roll Over Lay Down opens side one. Surely that's a great song. But then it goes into Claudie and A Reason for Living. Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad. And Blue Eyed Lady, yeah, it's okay. Don't mind that at all. I mean, this is a great album. But in side two, Softer Ride, and It's Better Now, and 4,500 times, you've got two classics on side two here. It's just, it's probably better, in my opinion, by a distance. But I didn't go with
Stephen,
that.
Stephen, you didn't contemplate Beulah Quad?
A boola boola cool, a boola boola cool, a boola boola cool. No, I didn't. Absolutely
Oh,
not.
That hasn't
Because
made an appearance in quite a while.
that opens the album, and therefore that makes a boola boola cool the classic side one opener. So not in contention. You don't understand the concept. The other one I didn't go with, but could have done, maybe quite controversial. Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. Okay, and there are reasons for this. Toys in the Attic was
Round and round, baby. That's all you need to say.
pretty much, yeah. I mean, Toys in the Attic opens the album, it's a classic, and I do love it. Uncle Salty's decent. Adam's Apple is kind of those ones, you can't forget about that song. Walk This Way, I don't need to hear that Walk This Way chorus ever again. I really don't. I mean, it's a great riff, it's a great guitar lick, but the chorus kills me every time. Shows you my age, because I heard the song first probably with Run DMC dragging Aerosmith out of retirement, realistically. So, but Big 10-inch record, oh wow, I do not like that song. I do not like that song, and I do not like this version of that song. Then you go to Sweet Emotion, which is just phenomenal on side two. No More, No More, it's one of my sleepers in the catalogue. I love that. Round and Round is just awesome. And then You See Me Crying is actually a really good album opener. Side two wins by a distance here
I
for
would
me.
agree. That's a great choice. Yep.
But the one I went for is my last choice. And the reason I went for it was because I have had quite a long, hard conversation with myself about this one. Because I thought, am I right? I mean, obviously I'm right. Or not, as the case may be. There are two classics on side one of this album and two of my favourite songs by the band. And therefore, de facto, side one should be better. But it's not. It's actually not better. Okay? Because you do have Aces High. I mean, come on, open an album. Yes, get in. You do have 2 minutes to midnight. Let's double down. It's fantastic. But side two here is just where it's at. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is one of those songs that when you first heard it, you were kind of like, oh, hold on, what's happening here? They don't do this kind of stuff. Although they always kind of did, but
Yep.
not for such a good song. And it's grown and grown. I love the title track. That's one of those songs that's just never spoken about from this band. It's just so good. And it stood up really well, I think. That is a real test of time song. You put on that track and you go, wow, they really had it. There's no throwaway shit here. And then there's Back in the Village, which just gets no love. Back in the Village and Back in the Village. Dickinson sells that song, something fierce, so he does. And it's not the best Maiden song ever. But I tell you what, I prefer it over Lost for Words, which is a nice instrumental. But with hindsight, they could have had something better on there on side one, could they not? Do you know? Then you got Flash of the Blade, that's really good. And the Duelists, that's really good. But I prefer Back in the Village over probably both of those. So therefore, side two becomes better. And this genuinely was, as I looked through albums to think, I thought Maiden must have one. And this one I got here, I thought, yeah, they really do. They absolutely really do. And I firmly believe it. Even though the two songs that open the album are probably two of my defining Iron Maiden moments, because I was just right at the correct age to go out and buy them on 7-inch single when they came out and get really excited about Iron Maiden getting in the charts. People that I was at school with knew who a band was that I liked. None of this stuff happened, and it was all really important back then. But I tell you what, side two is aged even better than the rest of side one. It's fantastic, and Rime the Ancient Marauder does a lot of the heavy lifting. So yeah, Power Slave by Iron Maiden is number one, number two, number three. I don't know, but it's the choice that kind of made me go, wow, yeah, okay, I'm thoroughly behind this. It's such a great side of music, fantastic.
We almost had our first duplicate of this episode. However, because I did go to the Iron Maiden catalog, and I'm like, God, there's got to be one of these that. And I looked at that album. I looked at the first two, and I'm like, no. I looked at that one, looked at Somewhere in Time, and I was like, it's close. I almost picked that one. Ultimately, I went with one that I never in a million years would have expected that I would have picked. I went with Number of the Beast. And I'll tell you why. Side one's got my favorite Maiden song of all time, 22 Acacia Avenue. It's great. Drop Dead classic. Invaders, great song. Children of the Dam, great song. The Prisoner, great song. But when I started like weighing it up against side two, even though two of them, arguably three of the songs have been such an integral part of their set lists for so many years, and probably we've heard them a ton of times, The Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills, Gangland is like this super like secret weapon on the album, and then Hallowed Be Thy Name. And it's like no matter how great 22 Acacia Avenue is, and those other three songs are really, really killer as well. I think side two is where it's at for me nowadays. If I had to weigh them against each other, but I think your pick is fantastic too because I could see myself picking side two of that album as well. Because Power Slave and Rhyme and the Ancient Mariner, those are the ones I want. Those are the ones I want to hear on that album now.
And they're a long chunk of music as well, so it is.
Right.
It's sometimes difficult doing this, thinking, well, there's 5 songs on side one and there's only 3 on side two. But in terms of like just quantity, side two's got 20 minutes worth of music that I just can't live without.
Right.
Side one's maybe got 10.
Yeah.
And maybe those 10 are better than some of the 20, but I just can't get past Power Slave and Rime the Ancient Mariner as just being, I couldn't live without those. Just so good.
Yeah.
That Number of the Beast is a great choice. I did look at that and
It's
I mean,
hard. I almost put it back.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because I was like, yeah, but I really think it. And it's interesting. You talk about this whole concept of like certain sides having more songs than the other. Like I was looking at the Rush catalog,
Mhm.
and especially like the earlier albums. You got some of those albums where side two is one song,
Yep.
or one song, one big long song, and then a short song, and then side one has got And I ultimately I walked away from the Rush catalog because I'm like, I don't know if I can really pick any of these for that reason. It's like, so I'm picking side two because it's got an 18-minute long epic, right? Even though side one is great too. And I'm like, So I ultimately decided not to do that. But yeah, it's like my Grand Funk Railroad honorable mention. That's side one's got 5 songs, side two's got 3, but 2 of those 3 are mandatory classics for me. And no
I
matter how
found
good
a
side one is,
similar
I couldn't vote against it, right?
yeah. I found a similar issue with the Yes catalogue. Fragile is a great choice, but where I was looking at certain albums, there was just like, there's one song on side two or whatever it may be, and you were just like,
Push to the edge,
is that all better than everything that's on side one?
yeah,
Arguably, as a song, yes, but do I prefer maybe track 1, 2, and 4 on side one for bits? Really difficult. It's been a really fun and much more difficult idea than I anticipated it being. I thought this would be pretty much a slam dunk, and I'd end up with a massive list and struggling to whittle it down. It was probably the opposite way. I got 7, and yeah, okay, I knew 2 of the 3 I really wanted, and then it was whittling down just those last ones. But there wasn't the. It's maybe not a surprise. There's not so many, but there's really not so many. I'm intrigued to see what people comment because this obviously it's down to personal taste as well and what your
Yeah,
favourite songs are and what albums mean to you for what certain reasons. But there's not as many out there as I think we thought there might be.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing how many albums are front loaded. And back then they did that for a reason, right? Because obviously it's you're gonna put side one on first. They want that side to just grab you. That's what the record labels do. And it's like, so it works. But as we've seen, there are instances where, side two maybe just a tad bit stronger. Because I don't think any of us have picked any albums today where side one sucks. It's side one is very good, to great, but side two
The
just
only one that kind of fell into my kind of sphere of thought, Neil Young was a prime pick for me for this. There were quite a few Neil Young albums that I nearly went with. On the Beach, Zuma, both kind of fall into that. And then it was American Stars and Bars. Side one's not very good, actually. Side two's really quite good. So that was another one I kind of thought, But ultimately, I don't know if I love that album enough for it to have pushed into my choices for today.
yeah.
But that was the only one where I kind of thought, well, I'm choosing side two because I don't like side one much. The albums I've chosen to date, and include my honorable mentions, I like the whole album. But side two is the one that makes me smile more.
Yeah. Yeah, most of mine were like that as well. Yep. All right, Stephen, what do we have coming up next time?
Well, we are ranking the songs on a classic album. Okay, so this is one of these ones where we were doing a previous show and somebody came up with an idea, and I went, yeah, of course, absolutely. So we are ranking the songs on 52nd Street by Billy Joel in 2 weeks' time. That is not something I thought I'd ever hear myself say out loud, but that is what we're doing. I have done a little bit of Billy Joel homework since then because a couple of albums have come into my possession in the meantime, a greatest hits and a live show. Yeah, they're all right. So I don't quite know what I'm going to make of 52nd Street, but it will be fun finding out nonetheless.
It's a great album, I will tell you that. I'm sure Simon agrees there, right? Yeah.
Solid gold, 100% classic. There you go. No need to turn up in 2 weeks' time.
So, in the risk of doing the show in 2 weeks' time, I've got a question because what I've heard and what I know are the hits. And to be fair, I knew way more of those than I had realised. I thought I was kind of Uptown Girl, don't go change it, try and please me. And then I would kind of go, oh yeah, I kind of remember some of these. But when I played the greatest hits, which is, I don't know, 20, 25 songs, there's
There's
a
a lot.
lot. I knew all bar maybe one or two really well, and I probably still knew the other couple. Is he a deep cut guy? Because the greatest hits album just kind of made me go, yeah, he's talented, and I mean, these are nice. I don't need it. So am I going to find the revelation is not the singles?
The deep cuts on 52nd Street are fantastic.
Okay, there we
Really
go.
are.
You've given me a reason to live for the next 2 weeks, and that's
Well,
what I'm
everybody's got a reason to live, don't they, baby?
yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's not go there.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I know we've talked about doing Billy Joel before, and a lot of people have asked. So yeah, this will be good. Yeah, I mean, this and The Stranger are like mandatory albums for like pop fans here in like the New York, New Jersey area. I mean, these albums are just kind of legendary around here. So, and I'm sure in other parts of the world as well. But yeah, so cool. All right, so down in the comments below, list your albums where you favor side two. And it'll be interesting to see what folks come up with. Like I said, this is not as easy as you think it might be, but it'll be cool to see what people come up with. And we'll see you next time here on the UK Connection. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Simon Bray and Steven Reid, I am Pete Pardo. Stay tuned tomorrow for ranking the albums. Grant Arthur and myself will be talking about our top 10 favorites from Australia's The Little River Band. That's coming up tomorrow. So see you then. For Simon and Steven, I'm Pete. Take care. Bye bye.